We give our children gadgets to learn, but what are we losing in between? Oops, sorry. I was so engrossed with my phone, I didn't know that we had already started. Well, welcome to another episode of Women Talk. I am Nadia, Azmi, your host. So the topic for today really probably will hit close to home when you hear what it's about. It's about parenthood in the digital age. It has a lot to do with the device that I was holding and using just now. Now, today's topic, we're talking about the daily struggles for modern parents, raising kids and children in a world that's moving faster, louder, and we're more connected than we were ever before. So the big question now is, are we truly more equipped, or are we just too overwhelmed? So today, joining us are two amazing guests. On my left, we have Alia, alias a licensed therapist and trainer. Thank you and welcome to Women Talk. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and next to her is Ashraf Khalid, an entrepreneur, celebrity, and proud father who's sharing his parenting journey with everyone here today. He said, "Dia tak pandai sangat parenting ni," but I don't think that's true.
But before that, I would like to say thank you so much for having me, even though it's a woman talk.
We need your perspective as well, from a male point of view.
Yeah.
That's right.
But most of the parentings are done by my wife.
Oh.
So she should be here, but it's okay. I try to speak on
I'm sure you share the burden. Right. Well, you say tak pandai sangat parenting ni. I don't think there's a perfect parent, a perfect mother or father. Sometimes we don't know what we're doing, especially in this modern age where gadgets are everywhere. So Ashraf, I want to start with you. So before you had kids, maybe before you got married, what was your view on these usage of gadgets and such?
For me, I think it's a double-edged sword.
Okay.
You know, technology can be used to ease communication, can be used to also teach our kids a lot of things. You know, a lot of things that they might
There's
be
a lot
hard.
of benefits.
Yeah, there are a lot of benefits, definitely. But at the same time, you also need to have some sort of control, in my opinion. Because like, even for my kids, right, they don't have phones per se. And iPad pun is our family iPad. So they can only get to use their iPad during the weekend. You know, they have
you set some guidelines, some rules.
Yeah, there are some guidelines. And also if they're naughty during that week, maybe they don't get the iPad time.
Right.
But all these are rules set by my wife, who is the lawmaker in the family. So
there needs to be that one disciplinarian in the family. Now, when you say control, Ashraf, I'm going to go to Alia now as a therapist. Okay, easier said than done. Sometimes you're so stressed, juggling so many things as a parent. It's hard to stick to those rules sometimes that we've already set, but how do we actually, go about that and actually follow and stick to what we've set?
Okay, so I'm also a parent, a mom of a nine-year-old daughter, and she's
9 kids.
9 kids. No,
Okay.
9. She's just turned 10. Okay. And I definitely understand both perspectives, like what you shared about how it's so tempting sometimes to just give them the.
It makes them quiet.
Gadget.
It makes them sit still.
Yes, and I think a very real thing that happens nowadays is what we call digital fatigue. You know, so because we as parents it's like there's so much that's going on nowadays. Like, I don't know about for you, but for me, it's also where you don't just have your work WhatsApp groups, you also have the school WhatsApp groups. You know, so it's hard for you to kind of keep track. So I remember a point when it got so overwhelming for me, I just outsourced it to her to do the checking of the messages and whatnot. So I show her that, you know, you can also use this technology, but you need to also be responsible for it. And when it comes to the TV, similar rules as him, is where it's more, she only has her phone on weekends. And to be sure of what kind of content she's watching, so I make sure that she watches it on the big screen. So at least I can hear you can monitor what she's watching as well.
Just to add, right? For example, like some parents might say, they want their kids to be a bit more relaxed and stuff like that. But you can also give like Legos to them or books for them to alternatives. So I think there's always other things that you can offer them so that they can also stimulate their mind.
Asha, do you think is it actually helping or hurting our parenting styles today?
Depends on the age. Kan? I think at a certain age, for example, before they are 7 years old, I think it would be bad for you to give too much technology to them, because they will explore things that you might not be able to control and stuff like that. But I think after a certain age, you can start to introduce them to technology, and at the same time monitor what kind of app or what kind of games they are playing. There are also games that will stimulate your mind. There are games, for example, Tetris or Sudoku and things like that. That is also good for the brain, right? So maybe you can get them to play this type of games. Instead of playing all those,
you pick and choose the right platforms,
what kind of things you want them to explore. I think as kids they get excitement from that exploration. It's not so much of the game or anything. Whatever we introduce to them, I think they will enjoy it anyways. So
sure not.
I
Sometimes they feel like, oh my god, I have to play Sudoku.
Depends, but I think maybe kalau dari awal you dah expose them to all these fun games, maybe it'd be difficult for them to go back. But before they actually explore those games, you give them these games first, then they I mean, for my kids at least they enjoy it lah. But of course as kids they also want to play their, I don't know what other games, Roblox or whatever.
We can reward them, but I think, in the right portions, they can play their games and such. Hold that thought. We will find out the ways and strategies on how we can still be in the moment with our kids, despite all the distractions around us. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Women Talk. We're talking about parenthood in this digital age. Just now I was asking Alia, a therapist, about how we can not make digital fatigue make us distracted and stay present and in the moment, especially with our kids. But how do we do that? Our phones are next to us all the time. It's pinging all the time. How do we avoid that? And when we're not responsive enough, whether it's for work or for any other purposes, we feel guilty that we're not doing something right or not doing our job. How do we avoid that?
Okay. This is very, very real, So I think the first is where, for us as parents, we need to still have a level of self-awareness. And what I mean by that is that we have to be very real with ourselves, because sometimes we tell ourselves, never mind, after this one message, then I will put down my phone, and then it just leads to the next, to the next, to the next. So
is it always on culture?
Yes, it's the always on culture, and sometimes you just can't stop it, right? Because and for schools also, it's where like last time, if they don't tell you during the day, then that's it, nothing, right? But now the teacher can message you at like 8 p.m. and be like, by the way, tomorrow you have to bring this stuff. So that also emphasizes that always on culture. So to answer your question, one is for us to be very real and be very intentional with the time that we are spending on it. Yeah, so what I do, or even what I recommend some of my clients to do, is just that, okay, so if that's the case, you don't try to just make specific space for that time, but it can just be as you go along. So like, for example, maybe when you're cooking, or maybe when you are putting your kid to bed or so, then those are just no phone zones, or no gadget zones. And I find that that's been really good in helping me manage the mom guilt and also the digital fatigue.
So it's about setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
Ashraf, are you ever afraid that, when your kids see you on the phone continuously, that will leave an impression on them? They say, oh, maybe that's how life is. I should be on my gadgets as well all the time.
No, I think for me, of course, I don't spend so much time at home. With the kids especially, maybe I get 2-3 hours at night with them. So during the time that I'm with them, I'm rarely on the phone. If I want to spend time with them, I will like bring them on my room, in my room, and then I watch TV together or watch something that they like. Of course, during the day, I'll be on my phone most of the time lah, but that will be during my working time. Sometimes when you go out, dinner and stuff, and you have a phone call that you have to take, you just take lah. But for me, still manageable lah. I don't think my kids are like, I'm still present lah as a father there. For me, like, you don't really need to spend like 10 hours a day with your kids. But if you spend like a good quality 1 hour with your kids, it will give a big impact to them. They will
Be
feel
very
that you are
valuable
there.
for them, right?
Yeah, rather than you are there playing your phone, the kids are there, not doing much. You know,
Yes,
everybody
yes.
just doing their own
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Even you spend 24 hours a day also, you feel like you don't have enough time, right? And for me also as a father, I will look forward to go back before 8 p.m. because I know by 9:30 they will go to sleep already.
Yeah.
So I want that 2 hours time with them. So that I can, share that they can share their day with me, and we can share each other's thoughts. And sometimes my little daughter, so she come up to me, Ayah, I need to chat with you. So she will talk about her plans. She wants to do her birthday,
That's nice.
whatever. Kan. So for me, having that kind of conversation with kids makes them quite mature also, because you'll be surprised.
Yes,
They're actually
yes.
quite smart. They're like,
Yes.
big person, but in a little
They're
format.
like a sponge at that age. They absorb a lot of things and they're able to apply it in real life. We mentioned earlier the plethora of digital platforms that are accessible for our kids for games, educational purposes. We have AI tutors, YouTube Kids, all these learning apps and all that. They're good. As you said, Ashraf, they're beneficial. Our kids learn from these platforms. But then again, how is it actually affecting, Alia, our kids' mental and emotional well-being? Are we making them into robots, intelligent robots, but without emotions, without empathy?
I think firstly is to see, because sometimes, yes, there is the advancement, but it also depends on our school systems, because some of them, it's not that advanced yet. Like, for example, I think our kids who go to school that we just found out, kids go to the same school.
I see.
So they're not as advanced yet with it, but it's slowly getting there, as in terms of them having to learn how to navigate certain things. So I think with that, it's not really about trading one for the other. I think it's just more for us as parents or even teachers to really make sure that they understand how to use it, the technology, because it can be used for different things, like not just educationally, but even when it comes to emotional intelligence also. Like when you're watching something, we can ask them more curious questions about it. Like, what did you take from it, from this person's reactions and whatnot?
The human touch still needs to complement their reliance on digital tools. Right. Okay, now I have a statistic to Ashraf. There's a concern from Malaysian educators talking about school. A 2022 survey by the Ministry of Education showed that 30% of preschoolers had reduced language skills due to excessive screen time. And this especially was prevalent during the COVID-19 pandemic. Should we be concerned?
I think as parents, we have to do our part. And for me as a father pun, of course, when my son wants to go to school and stuff, we want to prep them as much as possible. So if we see that they are not competent yet, we send for extra class, whatever, kan? So to make sure that they ni lah. So I think in the end of the day, every parent has to do their own parenting. They have to make sure that the kids are able to cope, kan?
Agree. But I think to add to that point, right, about the pandemic, I don't think it was just learning tools per se. It was because there were so many things that parents were kind of going through at that time. And you're stuck at home, and sometimes, when you're doing work, you need your kids to be entertained at that time. Because not everyone has that support at home, right? You couldn't send your kids to your in-laws or whatnot. So it was more of the quantity of time that they were spending with the digital devices. It wasn't necessarily the digital learning tools which were affecting their emotional intelligence in that, you had them having so much more screen time that would have more of an effect, I would think.
Very interesting perspectives from our guests. We will pick your brain some more on how we can have that balance between screen and off-screen time for our kids. We'll be right back after this. Talk, we're talking about parenthood in this digital age and also the struggles, the distractions, the overwhelming feelings that we get as parents in this world where there's a lot of noise, digital noise around us constantly. So now the question is, how do we protect ourselves and our kids as well from the adverse effects of digitalization? Alia, it's, you know, it's harder than we think it is, but maybe you can share some simple, small strategies that these parents can deploy in creating these tech boundaries.
Yeah, well, firstly, I would say don't beat yourself up. It's really about progress over perfection. You know, you're not going to get it right from the get-go, so it's like building on the small steps.
Right.
Second is to make use of your existing time. Because sometimes what we do is like, okay, we think we need to plan separate time slots for it to just be no phones or no gadgets, but we can just slot it into, like, for example, meal times, no phones, and then you know, when you're driving, I would use those times to actually really chat. Yeah, we can use it to chat and whatnot. Yeah.
Ashraf, I know that you have set your rules, household rules, when it comes to screen time. Or your wife, but you have to apply it as well and make sure that it's adhered to, right? But what happens when things go awry? When your kids are pulling a tantrum, they don't want to go by the rules, they want their screen time, they want it now, they want their gadgets. How do you go about that?
I think for me personally, I'm quite lucky lah, because my kids don't really throw tantrum. Because if they do, they will get it lah.
They know that, and that's why.
They know that. And I think as parents, of course, we play the good cop, bad cop. Mom plays the bad cop, I play the good cop.
Okay.
Kan? So whatever yang, you know, yang dorang ni, I cakap, okay, if you try to negotiate with them, I negotiate them. If not, I will have to talk to your mom.
There's a way how to engage with these kids.
Yeah, so for me, I'm quite lucky lah in that way. Maybe my wife also spend a lot of time with them and make sure that they are, you know, they still follow. But then again, they are only 7, 5 and 7, still young, you know. Maybe when they're teenage, then maybe they'll start rebel.
Then the rebellious moments will come in.
But so far, I think, for me personally, it has... Tak adalah, I don't have that
That's
kind
good.
of issue.
Alhamdulillah, very good. Let's go to Alia. What if that happens as a therapist?
As a therapist.
You know, what is your advice?
Don't give, right?
Putting me on the spot. No, you see, there's a healthy term we say boundaries, right? We set the boundaries.
Yes.
So I think sometimes you still just have to kind of be firm. Like I've had those kind of situations before, even with my daughter, where she would explode or whatnot, and I just have to. You can just be calm and tell them, no, it's done. Finish. Finito. Okay? Stop.
Gotta be firm that way.
But I think my wife does the same thing also. But then my wife will always say, you know, she will be strict lah. And then after that, they don't really kacau anymore.
Yeah, because these gadgets and devices, they're so addictive.
Yes.
Not just for kids, but for adults. So sometimes it's a challenge.
Or even when you're in public. When you're in public, like my daughter, before, sometimes she'll just be like, oh, but mama, I'm bored. And I'm like, well, you know, this was what happened to us in the past. So you just have to get creative and find what's
what we did last time?
you know?
While eating food, we read the cereal box. We didn't have a phone next to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she'll start doing anything. And I'm like, good, exercise that creativity.
Yeah, it's time to reintroduce all those things back into our kids' lives.
Because it's no longer PKP anyways. Dulu betul lah. At that time, yes, you sort of like have to give in because you don't have outside time and stuff like that. So you sort of, okay lah, just give lah a little bit kan. But now I think you can, you know, start that
normalcy again, Okay, now there's this concept called micro-presence moments, Alia. What is that?
So micro-presence is a bit related to what we were talking about just now. Is being fully present. 100% your attention is given to your child or so. And I agree with Ashraf, and that's also something which you learn about when it comes to like this parenting play with kids, right? How do you make the most of your time? It's really about the quality versus quantity. So the micro-presence, that's more of what it is. And how we can do that with our kids, again, is to really just be focused, be fully engaged with what they're telling us, get curious about it also. And you find you have the most interesting conversations with them in the process.
And in French, they call it carpe diem. Be in the moment.
Be in the moment,
be in
right?
the moment. Just be.
Okay, Ashraf and Alia, we have a few more minutes left. What's your advice, Ashraf, to parents out there, whether they're a dad or a mom, and they're struggling with getting that balance between using gadgets, between
I think Alia
having
would
those
be the best person to give advice.
You give your
She's the
bad
mother.
cop.
Yeah.
We'll hear her take as well, but from a parent
But, yeah,
who claims that they're not good at it.
Yeah, for me, I think as a father, I let my wife does more of the parenting. We
have you
just
learned,
support
though, in
lah.
that journey?
We
Yeah.
support the whatever she says and stuff like that. So I think in relationship also you've got to have that
A
kind of
united
balance.
front
Yeah,
also,
but
yeah.
we have to be united.
Yes.
We cannot have like one parent saying one thing, another saying another.
Good cop, bad cop, not all the time.
No, good cop,
No,
bad
good
cop.
cop,
But then
bad cop,
it's the
same
same,
team.
same team and
interesting.
the same vision, right?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So you can't like when your wife says or she can't watch TV and then suddenly you go say she can. Those kind of things you can't.
Yes.
Because if not, the kids will be confused.
Yes.
So as a father, that's what I do.
Every day we are learning. There's no such thing as perfect parenting. We are learning every day. Alia, what about you? What's your advice to all our viewers?
This one I have to also take that.
Yes.
I think that, exactly as what you said, right? They are constantly growing, and as they're growing, their needs will change, and even their reliance on technology will change. Now, we cannot control the wave of that. We cannot stop that wave from happening. So our best chance with that is making sure that our communication with them is full on solid, that they are not scared to share with us and engage with us also. And we grow with them through that journey. Because technology has all kinds of things that's happening. There's still a lot more that needs to be enforced also. We can't control it. We can't completely remove them from it. So the best bet I feel we have as parents is to be part of that experience with them, to help show them and let them be exposed, but not too much, even with the guidelines. I would say that's one of the best things we can do.
Terrific. Thank you so much to Ashraf and Alia. That was a fun conversation. A lot more that we could have expanded on, but I think there were
Maybe
some
in my
takeaways that.
podcast.
What was that?
Maybe in my podcast.
Thank you again to Ashraf and Alia. Now, although we have discussed about the benefits, the advantages of having all these digital tools, we can't, like Alia mentioned, we can't avoid the digitalization that's happening around us. So, we can't shove it aside 100%. But remember at the same time to not isolate yourselves, not let your kids isolate themselves, and be in that moment. In this precious thing that we call life. All right, everyone. Remember to follow us on social media, Women Talk at TV3, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you, everyone.